Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fidays. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for many of us: tips for dealing with an anxious attachment style. If you're new to the concept of attachment styles, don't worry, there's a lot of insightful research behind it. I've included some helpful links in the video description if you're interested in exploring further. Understanding attachment styles. Attachment theory explains how we form and maintain emotional bonds with others. According to this theory, there are four main attachment styles: anxious, avoidant, disorganized, and secure. Each style reflects our subconscious beliefs, expectations, and behaviors in relationships, whether romantic, platonic, familial, or professional. These patterns are often shaped by experiences from our early childhood. That said, don't stress too much about categorizing yourself. Not everyone needs to dig deep into attachment theory. However, if you've noticed consistent, unhealthy patterns in your relationships, or if you behave differently in romantic relationships than you do in friendships or at work, and you're not sure why, this might be worth exploring. My journey with anxious attachment. Personally, I've struggled with an anxious attachment style, especially in romantic relationships, for about 7 years. Even now, I have to stay mindful so those patterns don't sneak back in because, well, I'm human. I know how exhausting and confusing it can be to try to build a healthy connection when anxiety is quietly running the show in your brain, especially when you don't even realize it's happening. What is anxious attachment? Anxious attachment is often referred to as the overly dependent attachment style. You might notice that you tend to cling to people too tightly, sometimes feeling as though you literally can't live without them. This usually stems from a negative self-image paired with an overly positive view of others. Your brain might believe that others are flawless and that you, in contrast, are fundamentally flawed. This imbalance often leads to seeking constant approval, validation, and reassurance from others. When you don't receive that validation, or when someone pulls away, it can feel like your entire emotional world crumbles. The fear of abandonment grows louder, reinforcing the belief that you're unworthy of love unless someone is constantly affirming it. The impact on relationships. One of the challenges with this attachment style is the tendency to idealize your partner or friends. Subconsciously, you might place them on a pedestal, creating pressure and unrealistic expectations. This often leads them to feel trapped or overwhelmed, which ironically can make them pull away, triggering even more anxiety and fear in you. Creates a vicious cycle. The more they pull away, the more anxious you feel. And that anxiety can drive even more neediness and dependence, which pushes them further. Seeking safety in others, not in yourself. A person with anxious attachment often believes that their partner is their only source of safety, security, and self-worth. They may crave constant communication and reassurance, thinking, if they're not texting me back, it must mean they don't love me. This kind of thinking is incredibly heavy for a partner to carry and usually results in strain on the relationship. In a healthy relationship, both people need to feel secure within themselves, emotionally stable enough to be close without being dependent. Instead of viewing your partner as your oxygen, the goal is to experience connection with a balanced level of independence and mutual support. Recognizing the signs. If you find yourself becoming emotionally dysregulated, panicked, moody, unable to eat or work, after a small lapse in communication, you may be dealing with anxious attachment. Maybe you've had thoughts like, they've lost interest in me. They realized I'm not good enough. They're going to leave me. Let me say clearly, you are not trash. You are not unworthy. These thoughts are products of a painful narrative, not a reflection of your value. Internal messages and fear of rejection. Often, people with anxious attachment internalize rejection. If they don't receive frequent affection or affirmation, they believe it's because they aren't lovable. Over time, this becomes a deep-seated fear of rejection, and it warps their view of what love should feel like, often seeing it as something they must earn or beg for. I used to believe that authentic, unconditional love didn't exist for me. I constantly prioritized my partner's needs, stayed silent about my own pain, and felt I deserved that suffering because I thought I was somehow less than everyone else. How I began to heal. The turning point came when I realized, this isn't sustainable. I started learning about attachment theory, talked to friends, and realized that I wasn't alone. Even people I admired had similar struggles. That led me to dive into how the brain works, neural pathways, neuroplasticity, and I discovered something powerful. I could change. You can rewire your brain. I have done it, and I continue to do it. Today, I no longer identify with the anxious attachment style. It no longer defines me or controls my relationships. And the same can be true for you. Tips for navigating anxious attachment. So, if you're wondering where to start, here are a few practical steps that helped me. Acknowledge the pattern. Awareness is the first step. Many people stay stuck because they convince themselves, this is just who I am. But healing begins when you recognize, this is something I struggle with, not something that defines me. Understand the root, fear and anxiety. Anxious attachment is often driven by deep-rooted fear. These emotions aren't your identity. They're just responses shaped by past experiences. You can overcome them. Seek therapy or self-education. Therapy helped me process the emotional pain and reframe old narratives. If therapy isn't accessible, there are excellent books and online resources that can guide you through this journey. Learn to communicate your needs. One of the hardest but most essential skills is expressing how you feel. Many of us were taught that our emotions are too much or inconvenient. But your feelings are valid, and your needs matter. Sharing them clearly and compassionately is part of healthy connection. You are not alone. Millions of people experience these patterns. You are not broken. You are not destined for unfulfilling relationships. Healing is possible, and you're already on the path just by reading this or listening to this episode. Thank you for being here, and I hope this helped you feel seen. You are worthy of love, deep, healthy, mutual love, and the journey to believing that starts with you.